All right, let's talk about one of the most misunderstood books in the entire Bible, Deuteronomy. We're going to unlock it by digging into the original Hebrew. And you're about to find out that what this book looks like on the surface, well, it's not even close to what it's really all about. So here's the deal. For most of us, the common view of Deuteronomy is, let's be real, that it's a boring book of rules, it's just long and repetitive. But what if I told you the hidden secret, the thing we're going to unpack, is that it's actually a father's final emotional words to his kids, right before they're about to step into their destiny? That changes things, right? Okay, let's just be honest for a second. If I asked you, what's the book of the Bible you're most likely to just skip? Just skim right through it or jump over it completely, I'd bet for a lot of you the answer is Deuteronomy. And hey, there are some pretty good reasons why that is. Does any of this sound familiar? It's so repetitive. It feels like one long sermon. It's just Moses retelling all the laws we've already heard. Yep, it's the perfect book to just skim through. But what if that entire feeling, that whole impression we have, is actually based on a simple mistranslation? A choice somebody made thousands of years ago that completely changed how we see it. And that brings us to our first huge revelation, because this book, it's not really about law. It's about love. And the clue, it's been hiding in plain sight, right in its name. So the name we all know, Deuteronomy, it's Greek, and it literally means second law. Just think about that. The name itself basically tells you, get ready for a repeat, it's going to be boring, but that's not its original name. In Hebrew, it's called Devarim, which just means the words, not the laws, not the rules, but the words. And we're not talking about just any old words, we're talking about the final, most important words of a father to his children. You see, this changes everything. This isn't a repeat, it's a renewal. Think about it. A whole new generation is standing there, ready to finally enter the promised land. So these aren't just some old rules getting dusted off and repeated. No, this is the final loving pep talk from God, their Father, speaking through Moses to get their hearts ready. It's all about renewing that relationship for what's coming next. So, okay, how does this actually change how we read the book? Let's do a quick rapid fire. I'm going to show you a few powerful examples where knowing the original Hebrew word just completely unlocks what's really going on. Okay, first up, the book starts with, these are the words. To us, that just sounds like, okay, speech starting now. But in the ancient Hebrew world, that phrase was a huge deal. It was legal language. It signaled the start of a formal, binding contract. So what we think is just a long sermon is actually the opening of a sacred covenant ceremony between God and his people. It's like a cosmic wedding vow renewal. All right, next. Moses spends the first few chapters going over all of Israel's history in the desert. And it is so easy to read that and think he's just lecturing them, Remember when you messed up here and here and here? But that's not what's happening. The real purpose is to heal their identity. He's saying that was your parents' story of failure. That's not your story. He's resetting their whole identity, reminding them of God's faithfulness so they can step into this new season with confidence. Now we get to one of the most important, and I mean most important words in the whole book. It's the Hebrew word Shema. Now, in English, when we say hear, it's pretty passive. The sound just comes into your ears. But Shema is so much more. It's this incredibly active word. It means you hear something, you really get it, you let it sink in, and then you respond and act on it. And all of that happens inside a relationship. So when the famous verse says, "Hear, O Israel," we tend to translate that as, listen up, here's a rule. But that's not it at all. It's Shema, O Israel, which is an invitation. It's a call to respond in love. God is basically saying, hey, listen to my heart. If you really understand my love for you, your actions will naturally flow from that place of love. And this idea gets even deeper in the very next line, where it says to love God with all your heart. Now, when we say heart, we usually just mean our emotions, right? Our feelings. But the Hebrew word here is lev, and it's so much bigger. Lev includes your mind, your thoughts, your will, your choices, basically your entire inner person. So what's the takeaway? The command isn't just, hey, have some loving feelings toward God. No, it's a call to total, absolute devotion. Love God with your brain, with your decisions, with your willpower, and with your emotions, every single part of you. It's about a complete and total alignment of your entire inner being with Him. And when you put all these pieces together, it points to one central thing, the emotional core of this book. It's all about revealing God's true heart as a father.
Honestly, it might be one of the most deeply fatherly books in the entire Bible.
Just look at this incredible verse from the very first chapter. After going over their whole journey, Moses says this, "The Lord your God carried you as a man carries his son." Wow. Just let that picture sink in for a second. I think our default picture of God in the wilderness is one of constant frustration, just angry, dragging this rebellious group of people along. But that is not the picture the text is painting here. This is an intimate, tender picture of a loving dad who scoops up his son and carries him when the path gets too hard. And that simple image just reframes everything. When we read about God's discipline, our minds immediately go to angry punishment. But the Hebrew word musar is way more like training or mentoring or shaping. It's what a good father or a good coach does. So what we've been reading for years as God punishing Israel is actually God fathering Israel. So with this powerful image of a loving, coaching father in our minds, we come to the famous climax of the entire book. It's the moment where God, through Moses, lays out a life-altering choice for his children. Towards the end, Moses says, on behalf of God, "Look, I have set before you life and death, therefore choose life." And for a long time, many of us have read that as a one-and-done decision for salvation. But the Hebrew context reveals something much deeper. It's talking about a daily choice of alignment, a moment-by-moment choice to walk on God's path, in his ways, in his presence. And here's the absolute key takeaway from that. In Deuteronomy, life and death are not events that happen to you, they are directions you choose. Every single day, you're faced with a choice. Which direction are you going to walk? The one that leads toward more life, more connection with God, or the one that leads away from it? All right, so let's just do a quick recap of these huge flips we've just seen. We've flipped Deuteronomy from being a second law to the words of a father, from a long sermon to a sacred covenant ceremony. We've flipped God's actions from punishment to fatherly training. And we flipped the call to choose life from a one-time event to a daily direction. Why? Because at the end of the day, this book isn't about rules. It's all about relationship. Seeing Deuteronomy through this lens, it changes everything, doesn't it? It completely transforms a dry book of rules into this passionate story of a father's heart for his kids. And it really just leaves you with this one big, compelling question. If all of this was hidden in just one book, what other incredible treasures are just waiting for us, buried in the original texts?